Why is it in Diablo 3 your in-game intelligence and creative use of mechanics has no value in the game compared to the amount of time sunk? How come spending 4 or 5 extra hours in the game to get a small stat upgrade makes my character better than finding actual items for new builds? Alrighty guys, so today I wanted to talk about the Diablo 3 progression system. You know, I feel like this is a season that I've got back into compared to the previous one anyway. I've spent a lot of time on it, playing it, having a good time. There's just some massive glaring issues when it comes to the way Diablo 3 feels as a fan of the game. Why do I have, any reason to talk about it? Well, I've played that game basically since launch every day, and obviously Diablo 2 way too much as well. So I feel like, yeah, I've got some insight that I want to share with you. So here we go. Let's talk about the progression system and, in my opinion, what really needs to happen. Now, the way it works is basically when you very first start a brand new season, you're kind of picking up legendaries and just playing your way through. But eventually, you're going to try and want to get a full set. So what happens is that if you don't have a full set, you can kind of barely do Torment 6. Then we've got this massive gap where once you do get your full set, then you can crush Torment 10 if you spend like an hour or two, optimizing that particular gear. So we go from struggling T6 to just crushing Torment 10. Now, this usually happens in the first 2 days of a season, or maybe like 1 week for most players. Now, the time frame is fine in my opinion. The drop rates don't need to be lowered or anything like that. Don't stretch it out to make you, play for 2 weeks to try and find the set that you need. It's the sets themselves in the first place. Why are we chasing a set? Which, if you break it down, essentially is, psychologically, in my opinion, it's like one big, awesome legendary. It's one playstyle. Now, once you do have your final set, there's once again this massive gap where you're pretty much looking for ancient versions of the exact same gear and also upgrades to slightly tweak the maximum roll. Say you're running a strength class and, you've got like 100 less strength. You obviously want to try and get a better roll. But in saying that, since the Kanai's Cube came out, it does allow you to buff that particular item as well, but it still holds up the same, right? You want to get the best roll, and you can buff it with some extra strength or vitality if that's something you want to go for. But anyway, the last thing that I want to mention is Paragon grinding and gems. So I don't want to go into this. It's been covered so much before. Paragon is just as important, and obviously leveling your gems, so you want to push high greater rifts, particularly in 4-person teams. If you're running single player, it's totally different. You could probably do like as much as 10 greater rifts less than what you could during this period of time anyway. So there's a basic overview of the progression system. Now, Diablo 3 has 0 single player build discovery that's meaningful. Now, what I mean by that is when you play the game, there's a very controlled environment, and I feel like this is intentional from Blizzard through the use of sets. Now, we obviously have a massive diversity in sets as well. So, one's obviously way better than the other 100% of the time. Very rarely are there 2 sets that we're trying to compete against, but I do feel like sets are a controlled environment for Blizzard to, make sure that the balancing and greater rifts are even. When it comes to actually discovery of brand new builds in single player, it's pretty much just non-existent. If you're playing single player, you might want to go for the fewest charge build or whatever. If you're playing multiplayer, then you go for the health glow build, which was a pretty cool discovery and something exciting. But, is that really Diablo 3? Like, is that really what it's about? It just doesn't feel like the type of creativity that should be in the game. Like I mentioned, one set is always better than the other, but what I found myself doing in Greater Rifts was gravitating towards a playstyle. I did play a lot of the Barbarian, and I did like the Leap Barb, and I was pushing as high as I could with that particular set rather than going for what's best. So I was essentially handicapping myself to maximize my own fun and competing in an invisible leaderboard, basically, the Leap Barb leaderboards. Now, one really awesome thing that they did add in the game that I think is great is the no set. So the 2 rings that you get that allows you to basically run no set and scale up with other stuff. But what I found is that on the particular character that I was playing was that it falls short when it comes to greater rift pushing. Now, of course, there's like Torment 10 speed farming, which is, fantastic. You can play with lots of different variations. Now, the no set is an awesome idea. They're just missing one thing. They need to balance the legendary items that you would use if you were using 2 rings way more. So the way I see it is that you should be able to use any kind of legendary item that has a significant damage bonus. Say, for example, a lot of the swords. You should be able to make your own build out of that with the no-set set. It's so incredibly weak. Even just like the basic math on some of the legendaries is just unfathomably low. Like, I just don't understand it. It hurts my brain that someone at some point was like, yep, 25% chance of a dagger coming out that does 400% weapon damage. Ship it. Perfect. Everyone's going to love this item. So there's a clear deficit when it comes to the stats on legendaries. They've been around for ages. Some of them haven't been changed for so long. And I feel like this is kind of a big deal. Now, there's a lot of items that I think are really cool that could be buffed. Unfortunately, you know, we've got so many low stats in the game. It almost feels like the legendaries were designed to wow new players, to make them go, oh my god, look at this. It spits out lightning when I attack. How cool is this? And obviously that wears off extremely quick, you know, unless you're a new player. And even if you are, eventually you're going to figure it out once you get your set. But I wanted to also acknowledge here that, you know, they should never ever forget about the campaign. I assume most people who are new to the game, they don't buy it for the end game like a lot of us who play it a lot. They buy it for the game. You know, they want to go through the campaign and all that good stuff. So they should never forget about that. Now, just for some solid proof on that topic, do you guys remember when the Reaper of Souls expansion came out? The first thing that you probably wanted to do was discover what the new items were, and definitely not what the brand new one playstyle is that you're going to be playing next along with everyone else. But also play through the campaign and check out Malthael and do all the questing. I really feel like Blizzard should consider legendary items as mini skills. They should treat them the same. So when a new patch comes out and they buff a certain skill in a certain way, they should consider the same thing for legendaries instead of leaving them behind to basically gather dust and cobwebs and never be used. Once again, like 25% chance to summon a skeleton that'll follow you and do 0.001% DPS. Amazing. The game's gone from, you know, basically finding an exact set of gear and playing to a certain way, and this is essentially controlling the environment for greater rifts instead of utilizing a player's in-game intelligence. You know, if you're a creative person and you're going to put the time into it, you want to discover new builds and try all different variations, that just does not exist. And that truly is, in my opinion, what Diablo 3 is. Try different variations rather than trying to get the best roll on an ancient item on the set everyone else is using, and then, you know, upgrading the legendary gem one more level. It's just not good. It's just not creative. It's just lame. It's just numbers. But I did want to add one more thing before I go. And this is a video out of a good place. It's a positive video. I would like to see some of these changes come through and bring back definitely the creativity in the game, and not just forget about legendaries for, you know, a year and a half and buff them. Treat them like skills. Make sure that they are all good and we can try stuff. I want to be able to play the game, find a sword and go, this is awesome. I want to combine this with this and this and play this specific build, not this preset guaranteed best in slot. Here's the set. We're going to add 2 more legendaries in that are going to buff that set. We know players will gravitate towards them and new players won't. Eventually they'll pick it up. It's just a totally different play style. And by the way, I know this is actually possible because I recently had a chance to play Transistor, which, you know, even as a small indie title, allows for way more build creativity than D3. I don't just wake up one day and load the game and like, oh, I don't really feel like playing Diablo 3 anymore. I just won't play it for like 2 weeks and I'm like, oh shit, I haven't played that Diablo 3 in ages. What the hell? You just fade off. Like, why bother going in and, you know, trying to get an extra 1 more level on my gem? It's just lame. Blizzard, add new builds. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me as always. I know that there's some cool stuff coming out in Diablo 3 in the future. I look forward to checking it out, and let's hope it goes down the area of creative build discovery. At the end of the day, if you're going to give people one way to play, you know, and 10 ways to upgrade the way that you are playing, it's still lame.